Hello, beautiful people. Today we're going to talk about how might additional training or education advance your career. Have you ever invested in training or education for yourself and wondered whether it's really made a difference? What if I told you that making education work for you isn't just about what you learn, but it's about how you apply it? Are you using education or training as a checkbox or as a lever to really accelerate your career? By the end of this video, you will understand the difference between training, education, and applied learning. You will learn how to maximize the value of any training or education that you've done, so long as it's relevant. And you'll discover a practical way to integrate training and learning into your work to advance your career. So how might additional training or education advance your career? This is one of those "it depends" responses, sorry about that. But it really depends on how well aligned the training or the education is with your immediate work and with your longer term career. So my rule of thumb for this is training and education have more to do with not what you learn, but why you're learning it and how you're applying it. So two people can go to the same program and they can get completely different things from it, and one of them will apply it and the other one won't. The one who applies it and brings something home and begins to, or brings something back to work and begins to apply it to their work and share it with others, is more than likely the person who's going to advance in their career. I believe that the real purpose of learning and of education is to increase your enjoyment of life and to position you to be able to better contribute to your fellow humans. If you find that you are going on a course or doing some learning to check a box and it isn't something that enhances your career, brings you joy, allows you to be more effective at work, then you've got to ask yourself whether or not it's a good use of your time. I found over the years that the people who pursue what they love in a disciplined and focused way with a deep understanding of their career and where it's headed, that they're the people who get the most out of any time they spend learning and training. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about applied learning. So some of us think that learning or a degree is about gathering information. And I've run programs and sessions and given speeches where people will say, "That was great information." And that breaks my heart in a way, because the information is really only scratching the surface. Information is really only valuable and useful when people apply it. So make sure whatever it is that you're doing, that you are learning something that you can apply, that you can embody at work, that it becomes part of your practice, that it becomes part of your habits, that it becomes part of how you think about things, that you integrate it into the way you think about life, your career, your opportunities, the way you think about your work. Applied learning is where you learn and then you put it into action. As an adult, applied learning is the most effective way that you can advance your career. All of us have shortcomings, or we have opportunities for growth, might be a better way to put it. We have opportunities for growth, and how we choose to deal with those opportunities for growth really determines how successful we are in life and in our careers. If you know what your opportunities for growth are, and they will change and grow and morph and shape over time, but your opportunities for growth are where you will find opportunities for learning and where you will find opportunities to be able to apply that learning to give you that extra growth that you need. So bottom line on this is training and learning have little value if they're not applied. Mobilizing, which is mostly the work that I do, is applied learning, and it is putting it into practice at work. If you go on a training course or you get another degree, you want to position yourself to be able to come back to work and apply it in a way that is valuable and is seen to be contributing to the team or the company as a whole. When you think about the type of training or learning that you need to do, it's important to recognize the differences. So training is usually to fill a skill gap. So for example, a skill gap. So some people might have a skill gap in writing. Now, AI does a lot to help us with that these days, but your writing ability is really important when it comes to sending emails, when it comes to doing job applications, when it comes to doing reports, when it comes to writing papers. So your ability to be able to write, if it isn't something that you truly mastered in school or in an undergraduate or postgraduate degree, is a skill set that you need to learn and you need to improve on. So you can take specific training that just helps you with improving your writing. If you're doing applied learning, it's hands-on learning. So my Next Level Innovation Leaders program teaches people a new common sense, teaches them how to think differently about innovation, teaches them how to think differently about work, gives them frameworks and tools and skill sets to be able to innovate more effectively within their companies, both as a team, as a department, and of course as an individual. And what I'm doing with them in those cases is I am helping them apply it directly to work that they have on hand at that moment, where they're looking to be able to improve the quality of that work, drive greater innovation, provide more innovation leadership for their people. So hands-on applied learning with new learning and new thinking coming in is, I believe, the most effective learning, and I refer to that as mobilizing. The third one, which is also super valuable, is formal education. So a degree will give you not just the creds of having a degree, that's useful, it helps people understand what you're passionate about and where your interests fit and where your abilities and capabilities fit. But what it also does is it allows you to be able to understand the lay of the land for a particular area. So my background is actually in geology, and I'm a geotechnical engineer by training. So anyone who works in the engineering field or geological fields knows this is what an engineering geologist is able to do. This is what geotechnical engineering does. And so that will give them an idea of what it is that I'm capable of. Now, it's obviously going to be limited to just that area. But what it also does is it gives you an idea of who are the other players in the field, who are the new thinkers in the field, who are the people who kind of determined and set up the field in the very beginning. It'll also give you an idea who's innovating in the field. So formal education is really valuable for the bigger perspective, the bigger context, for giving you the lay of the land, and also very relevant for you in terms of, are these my people? Do I love this? Does this float my boat? Does this bring me joy? Is this something I'm willing to dedicate a lifetime to become masterful in, to become one of the leading thinkers in, and ultimately contribute to the field so that I am helping the people who are coming behind me? So formal education is absolutely terrific for that. It's important when you do training, applied learning, and education that you understand what the difference is and you set your expectations appropriately for what it is that you want to get out of it and how you think it's going to impact your career path. I think it's reasonable to also say if you're doing small amounts of training on an ongoing basis, you're gradually bumping yourself up and making progress. If you're doing applied learning, you can make big leaps forward because you're applying things and producing amazing results. If you're doing education, you're doing a step up for yourself that gives you a perspective on an entire area that you know you're going to dedicate a lot of time, energy, and effort to. The other thing to pay attention to is maximizing the return on investment. And whether your company pays for it or whether you pay for it, you're making a huge investment in time. If your company pays for it, they're making a huge investment in money and they will expect a return. If you're paying for it, you're probably borrowing money which you're going to have to pay back. You're making a huge investment that you're not investing into something else. So your ROI, your return on investment on your learning, training, education, applied learning is really important for you to consider before you decide what it is that you're going to do. What I've found to be most effective in this case is if you're looking to use training, applied learning and education for career advancement, sit down with your boss and put together a plan around where the gaps are. Now, the gaps can be short-term immediate gaps, in which case we're looking at training. They can be leadership gaps, in which case we're looking at applied learning, where you can actually deliver results for the company and show your leadership capabilities. Are there education gaps where there's something that you want to pursue and build up a level of mastery and you want to really dive deep into it? And there are some programs with certain companies where they will actually pay for you to do that while you're working. Those are very much worth looking into. Make sure that you're choosing something that excites and interests you. There's nothing worse than being halfway through a program and feel like you're dragging your feet and it's not really you're not really in love with it anymore. Make sure before you embark on something, particularly as a more mature student, that it's something that is going to sustain your interest and that you're genuinely going to love. And then the other thing to do is set yourself up to do pilots, small applied projects that allow you to be able to really test your learning and see what value it's adding for you, for your team, for your company. If you do that over time, it'll help you kind of course correct around your learning if it's going over a long period of time, and make sure that it's delivering value for you and for your company and that you're enjoying it. There's some sort of basic truths that are also worth remembering. Is make sure that what you're doing brings you joy. If there isn't a level of return for you, if something isn't bumping you up and making you feel good about yourself or making you feel good about your ability to be able to contribute to others, then it's going to wear you down. So it's one or the other. If it's bumping you up and adding value for you and adding value for people around you and making you feel good about yourself, go for it. The other thing to remember is the easier, the more naturally aligned with your skills and traits and qualities, your learning and your training and your development and your career is, the easier it's going to be for you. So what might seem incredibly easy to you might be very difficult for somebody else. But if it's easy for you, recognize it and embrace it. And absolutely you should have challenges, but life will throw you enough of those anyway. Do what comes to you with ease and make sure that that is also something that brings you joy. The easier and more joyful your work is, the higher impact you can have, because you're using your energy to have impact rather than you're using your energy just trying to keep yourself going. If you found this useful, there's another video that I think you might also find very useful, which is how to ask for a raise after getting a degree. Sometimes it's very useful to jump ahead and say, oh, what's it going to be like after I get my degree, after I've done my training, after I've done my applied learning, my mobilization, and then how will that actually help me in my career? So moving yourself forward 6, 9 months, or even 3 or 4 years, and look at where you will be and what it is that you will be asking for from work. When you've come out the other side of that is worth looking at. So link down below, look at the video, how to ask for a raise after getting a degree.